If you want to be good at painting and drawing, you have to start early. That's what they say. And the old masters, they prove it. But really, they just couldn't start late. Yeah, and it's true. They didn't have a choice. The history didn't give them a choice. They just couldn't start late. And they started as very young kids, and they would do these apprenticeships and do the dirty work and grind pigments for years. And you know why I started thinking about this? Because of two very serious reasons. One of them is I'm going to be sorting out my pastels. It's kind of like grinding pigments, but in a more contemporary and more sophisticated way. And the other serious reason is, yeah, it's all your fault. I'm not going to name names, but hi, Christine. A couple of weeks ago, I posted this video on the lemon trick. Look, see, notice, remember? And someone wrote a comment, and this someone is Christine. And she's a scientist. And I'm kind of afraid of scientists all the time because, you know, they're smart and I'm kind of not. But she wrote something I understood, and here's what she wrote. It's not just artists, but the scientists as well are trained observers. Yes, they're just trained differently. If we are trained to see light and shadow, then they are trained to see patterns and, I don't know, the data, which is a different thing, I know, but it's also observing. Yes, she's totally right. But then she kept writing. And somewhere in the middle of the comment, she said this. I'm going to read it to you. All our other knowledge bases and experiences, if we pay attention and apply them, they make our eye different from everyone else. It's true. And the sentence kind of stuck with me because Christine has put in words something I was trying to figure out for years. And she explained it much better than I ever could. Let me ask you a question. You have heard this one. Caravaggio started at 11, Rubens at 14, Velázquez at 11. All those great masters, they started very, very early as young kids. And if you read about all that art history, you kind of start thinking that, man, if you don't start as a kid, you kind of missed the boat, you know. And, you know, I thought that too. I bought it. But Christine's comment kind of triggered my thinking and made me go further. And I thought, wait a second. But what if we look at this whole starting early thing completely backwards? You know? So I did what I think every normal person would do. I went digging into art history, and because I really wanted to understand why did they start that early? You know, you look at them, Caravaggio, Velázquez, Rubens, everybody, they started at 11. And is 11 some kind of like a magical age or something? And, you know, at first it looks true. You have to start early. And if you look at any art book, there is another tiny child grinding pigments and mixing colors and doing their genius stuff. And yeah, but when you want to understand why they did it and you go deeper, then the whole thing kind of falls apart. You know, in Baroque period, one of my favorite periods, and because I enjoy making my life unnecessarily complicated. So in Baroque period, you did not decide to become a painter. You know, it was not just possible to wake up one morning and say, okay, I'm 45 now, and enough with this accounting and engineering. I want to become a professional painter. I want to spend the rest of my life, you know, painting light and shadow. No, it was not possible. There were professional guilds, and these professional guilds, they controlled everything. They controlled apprenticeships, materials, clients, every single thing. And you could get in only when you were a child. And if you didn't get in, you couldn't get in at all. There was no other way. And when we look back now, we kind of think, okay, is this kind of like a magical number? They started at 11, and that's the only way to start painting and drawing and to become good at it. I think what we're actually looking at is the consequences of the system. The system was this way, and the system accepted only children. So that's why I'm saying that we're looking at those great masters and reading the whole evidence backwards. But to be totally honest, I did not start late in life with painting and drawing. And I went to the art lyceum when I was 11. Boston, yes. You're like, you see, easy for you to say. Yes, but fair. But I started something different late in life. I started drawing with soft pastels. Pretty late. I was in my late 30s, I think, yeah. and I never was using soft pastels as much before. And I thought, okay, when I start using soft pastels, but I wanted to try it. And I'm like, if I start using it now, then I don't know anything about it. I don't know how to layer them, and But when I started drawing, I kind of noticed one very interesting thing, that everything I knew about color theory, composition, drawing, the lines, the structure of a drawing, I kind of brought it all with me into soft pastels, and I thought it was kind of cool. I did not realize that, I thought I was starting from scratch, but actually I was not, because I'm gonna sound very philosophic right now, but I brought all that life I had before soft pastels, I brought it all into soft pastels. So, and when you start with a new thing later in life, you kind of think, okay, you're 35, 45, 55, 60 now. Congratulations, you're about to become very terrible at that new thing. Yeah, it's all here. And again, if we talk about languages now, it's like learning to speak a new dialect or a new language with everything you have. And it's kind of easier to speak to learn that language, because you already know the grammar of that previous language. Oh, oops, I just dropped my soft pastel. They break so, because it's so humid in Amsterdam, and soft pastels, pencils, charcoals, sanguine, everything breaks. Yeah, that's why I was saying in a previous video, let's invent something unbreakable, pencils or unbreakable soft pastel. That would be so cool. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so you're bringing all that life into this new thing you're trying to learn, and I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, and speaking of Amsterdam, in 2 weeks, I will be traveling in Sweden. And yeah, this is how my brain works. I think of Sweden now. Subscribe. I will show you something interesting. I hope. And instead of preparing everything, finding out where to eat and where to sleep, well, my partner does it. We all have our hobbies, right? I read art history books, and I try to figure out what painters I want to, discover for myself while I'm there. And it's the same thing there. All of them started when they were children, totally different culture and country, but the same system. They could not start late. This made me also think that when we think about them and we compare when they started and when we start, we kind of forget that we confuse history with biology, because we think it's just because they were so brilliant, they started that early. But no, it's a history, because history didn't give them a chance to become painters when they're 45. But of course, there are many artists who started late in life, and we all know their names. They're so famous. Van Gogh. If I mention his name one more time, YouTube might ban me. Because I'm like a huge fan of Van Gogh. But yes, he started late in life. And who else? Grandma Moses, one of the most famous American painters of the 20th century. And she started when she was 78, I believe, right? Different circumstances. Or Gauguin, I believe he was a stockbroker, and then something went wrong in his business and he was unemployed and he decided to become a painter. So Gauguin. Or Hokusai, when he was a painter, but when he was 70 something, he made this beautiful artwork, The Wave, and The Great Wave, I believe that's how it's called. And then he wrote something that everything he did before that was not significant at all. And he started making significant stuff only when he turned 70. Goosebumps. Yeah, and we look at them and we say, oh, they're just exceptions, and they just prove the rule. Yes, there are exceptions, but they prove something totally different. They prove that you can start late and you bring all that luggage that you collected during your life, you can bring it into your art, and your art will be incredible. And I think that's exactly what Christine was talking about. She was not talking about just biology, observational skills, She was talking about all that life experience that grown-ups bring into their art when they start late. Let's say if you were a nurse, or if you are a nurse, then you have certain skills that I don't have. You can, see the changes in somebody's condition that I won't see that change. And if you were or are a teacher, You know when the class checks out mentally. I do not see when they're gone. I just keep talking. And if you're a parent or a grandparent, you have this experience I don't have. And you might say, I didn't choose to train those skills, but you trained them anyway. Now you're bringing them. And I have certain skills that I have to work on. My skills are pointing right from the beginning. They're pointing at art. Your skills, they were not pointing at art, but you can redirect them now. Your art won't be the same the way I make. It will have different tastes. It will look different. Yes, because we're all different. But that's actually the goal, to create different kinds of art. And I think when we'll look at those great masters again, then we shouldn't be asking, what's the best age to start painting and drawing? We should be asking, all I lived, all I have, all I've experienced, how can I bring all of that into what I do now? And what you do now will be so yours. Nobody can recreate it. No AI. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to mention it. So Christine, thank you so much. You probably thought you were just leaving a comment, but actually you made me dig deeper into art history, and and you made me understand a couple of things I was like circling around, but I couldn't figure out what they are really. And it was a great journey to me. Thank you so much, really. And I want you to know what you think about this. Do you think people who start, let me ask you, do you think that people who start late actually have an advantage because they start late with all those experiences? And people who start young, they're kind of like disadvantaged? Is that the word? No offense to young viewers. Well, they're probably none. And if you're there, please let me know. I think there's a rat running in my garden. There it is. You see it? I don't like them. Welcome to the Netherlands. Yeah, and as always, do yourself a favor and do not confuse history with biology. Because one thing is the system that we're looking at, and masters could get in only when they were young. And the other thing is biology, that we think, okay, they were incredibly talented. And actually, about the talent, I have this video. You can watch it, and that's the one where I talk about talent and what I think about it. And that's the one where I got a bit emotional. My name is Dimitri Ross. I am a figurative artist in Amsterdam, and I hope to see you in the next one. Okay? Ciao, ciao. I went to Art Lyceum when I was 11. That's true. No, but I'm saying... Yeah, and when you read about art history, then you kind of start thinking that... Sorry.